say that Sat7 is a Middle Eastern television ministry that exists to support the church in the Middle East, to help it grow in its Christian faith and witness. Well, when I trained as an electronic engineer and then worked for Ford Motor Company for 12 years, I never imagined that God would call me into Christian service, let alone into a Middle Eastern television ministry. But here I am. I actually joined Sat7 in 2005, initially for just 1 year as part of a placement with BMS World Mission, and I was sent to Sat7's office in Cyprus with my family. 2.5 years later, we came back to the UK and I started my role here with Sat7 in the UK. So Sat7 is providing Christian television programmes for the church and for the people of the Middle East. And the programmes are trying to do two things. They're seeking to encourage and strengthen often isolated believers in their faith, and really then provide a fresh perspective of faith for those who perhaps have questions about Jesus. So everything we do is shaped and inspired by the faith of the Christians in the Middle East. The programmes are culturally sensitive. They explain the Bible and Christian issues in a sort of everyday way. We broadcast on 2 television channels in Arabic, one for children and one for everybody else, one channel in Turkish and another in Farsi, which is the language spoken in, it's a Persian language spoken in Iran. And just to give you a very little snapshot, so we have programs, so we have worship programs, Christian teaching, discussion shows, testimony programs, documentaries, dramas, and plenty of programs for children and youth. And since 2011, we've started to offer educational programs as well. So what we might call the 3 R's in a sense, but for primary aged Arabic children. So we've got maths and English and other subjects. I don't know if you know, but in the Middle East, some 15 million children don't have access to education. And coronavirus has only made that situation worse. So these programs enable these children who are unable to go to school to access education, continue to learn and grow, and that includes children living in refugee camps. So I often ask people what it is they think of when they think of the Middle East, and they often will say conflict, poverty, persecution. They're probably the top 3 that I hear. But that's not the true story of what's going on in the Middle East. There's actually a really vibrant church. And what Sat7 is seeking to do is to work with that church to tell a different story, to encourage and build up those Christians and give all those people with questions somewhere to go to find out more about Jesus. Well, some of the Christian communities in the Middle East are very small, and so to stand up and be on screen, it's a big risk for many people, not just for themselves, but for their families. So particularly for our Iranian broadcasters, presenters here in the UK, many of them can no longer return to their homes in Iran because of their involvement with Sat7. So Leela from Iran wrote to say that she and her sister had come across Sat7 and they watched a programme, actually with her brother as well, about addiction. And her brother was addicted to drugs at the time. So they contacted the programme and asked for prayer. And they were prayed for on air. And it really touched this lady's brother. And really, he felt the Lord speaking to him. So he has since then stayed away from drugs. And not just that, but he's later come to acknowledge Jesus Christ and to ask for prayer during one of our programs. So now my brother, myself and my husband, this lady tells us, are all believers. Drug addiction is such a big issue in Iran, in particular amongst well-educated young people who cannot find work and who are disillusioned with their society. So they're losing hope and turning to drugs. So it's a big ministry for Sat7 to reach out and support these people. It's a great question. So 25 years ago, Sat7 started to broadcast with 2 hours a week of programming from a rented studio. And now Sat7 broadcasts 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on 4 satellite television channels, plus on social media, plus on video on demand. And these programs are made in 5 studios that are owned by Sat7. And actually each of the channels of Sat7, when it started, it was the first of its kind. And just this year, to continue with that, we've launched the first Christian Middle Eastern video on demand service called Sat7 Plus. And so with over 25 million viewers, Sat7 is undoubtedly providing all parts of the Middle East with an opportunity to hear the good news. Well, when the idea of Sat7 was first mooted, many people laughed and said it was just not possible. That it was possible, and that 25 years later, so many millions of people are benefiting from those life-giving broadcasts is something that we thank God for every day. So we will mark the 25th anniversary with a special prayer meeting to give glory to God for all that He has done and continues to do through Sat7. And we just want to say that one of the things we'll be praying for and thanking God for is our very faithful supporters. So we greatly appreciate the prayers of our supporters for the presenters that we talked about and for our viewers. So prayer is an important thing that people can do, and we also appreciate those who can tell others about Sat7. So Sat7's really well known in the Middle East, but less well known in the UK. So that telling others is really important. And of course, we appreciate those who are able to support Sat7 financially. Sat7 is free to watch and operates entirely on charitable donations from around the world. So it's fantastic when people want to join us and become part of the story that we're telling in the Middle East.